Hello and welcome into Reality Check here on the YouTube channel. I am Matt O'Leary. I am joined as always by my good friend who I just saw a couple days ago, Jeremy Jets Chaos. How are you, my friend?
Right there, right above me. You can see, where is it? We're right there. You see that? November 22nd. The M is for Matt. The T is for Taylor. Mr. and Mrs. O'Leary. I want to be the first to announce on YouTube, if it hasn't been announced in this way. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest couple in the world, Mr. Matt and Taylor O'Leary.
Oh, I love it. The energy completely unmatched. I figured you guys, especially the Jets table, would like the intro with the rally towels going.
Oh, we loved it. We loved it. I did think I could do better than the DJ, though.
You did. Okay, there you go. Yeah, with that, with that intro, I don't know how you follow that up, right? I don't know how you do that, but it was a blast. I said it to you before we started here. It meant so much that you guys were able to come. And it's kind of hard adjusting back into the real world this week. And it's good that it's a short week. Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Yeah.
What I need a Thanksgiving take from you before we really get rolling today. Give me a food take, Thanksgiving wise. Favorite side? What are we looking at?
It's all about stuffing for me. I've always been a stuffing guy. And I mean, I want to, not on its own. I mean, I love it with the turkey. I love combining the stuffing with the turkey. You know, this turkey's a little dry in your mouth. You get a glob of that stuffing and some gravy. Just, that's my thing. And of course, dessert is always the pumpkin pie for me. So,
yeah, Taylor just made gluten-free pumpkin pie for me for tomorrow. The house smells so good. I am itching to get my hands on that. Shocking. We've talked about it before, the mashed potato bar at the wedding, but my favorite side is mashed potatoes. It's the mac and cheese. There's so many good things. My take, I was telling Taylor, I think we've gone too far on the turkey hate. I feel like it's very popular now to say that turkey overrated. I'm not saying it's the best meat out there, but you have it twice a year, right? Christmas, Thanksgiving, you have a turkey. It's totally fine piece of meat.
It also just goes well with stuffing, a little bit of cranberry, the gravy, the flavor characteristics as a meal. It's a delicious meal. I always love Thanksgiving meal.
I am with you on that. So happy Thanksgiving to you and yours listening. Much appreciated for tuning in. And kind of what we wanted to do today was just take a look at the state of the roster in a way. The Jets have brought in a bunch of new guys, as recently as A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie, but even some previous trades with, Briggs and Brownlee and Harrison Phillips. And, they're all playing well right now. So just hitting on those guys and then, taking a look at, well, what do the Jets have figured out going into the offseason? Because, we could spend some time on Jets Falcons, but I mean, it's a 4-7 team and a 2-9 team. And, the Jets lost by 13 to Baltimore. So I guess let's start there. Just how you've been feeling on some of the new additions to this Jets team.
Oh, wow. I'm excited because I think it's not about stars. Like a lot of people say, you're acting like these guys are going to make us Super Bowl contenders. And, I was on Twitter, in a Twitter room, and somebody was just being really annoying about that. And it's like, and we were talking about this earlier, you know how I feel about it. No team has 11 starters on offense and defense, 11 each, 22 starters that are all superstars, right? So part of building a championship team is obviously you have your stars. Some of them you hope are, as many as possible, are in their rookie contracts, so they're cheap, right? So then you have money to spend on to fill in things where things don't work out. So you have your stars, whether it's through free agency or through the draft. On rookie contracts, you have these are your special players like Garrett Wilson, right? And then realistically, like moving forward, as we rebuild this team, you do need to fill the roster with good, reliable, good, solid players, right? I think one of the things that went wrong with the last 4 years with our big is we had some stars, but obviously quarterback was an issue. We missed on quarterback with Zach Wilson, but also we had too many weak links. We had spots on the roster that we didn't fill well. Like, the safety room was a mess. It was terrible. The last year there with Aaron Rodgers last season, the defensive tackles were like we stripped our defensive line. There have been, and then before that year, it was always the offensive line, right? That we finally got filled. So so the point of this eval, I think, is let's talk about what we have, not necessarily as we have enough to win Super Bowls, but just as we do this rebuild and move forward, we're going to have tons of money in 2027 in cap. We have 5 first-round draft picks, right? Obviously, we need a quarterback, but aside from that, how many things do we have right now we don't have to worry about filling? And I'm looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's a good one to look at it that way, honestly. And you know, for me, like you look at the 2 wide receivers you brought in the trades in AD Mitchell and John Mechie, and Mechie has touchdowns in back-to-back games, and essentially without Garrett Wilson has been serving as the Jets' #1 receiving target. Now, that's not me saying I think he's a #1 receiver. I don't think I'd even go as far and say that he's a #2. We haven't seen that enough yet. But I think there's a world where you're looking at, Mechie as a starting slot and as your 3rd wide receiver, and AD Mitchell as your 4th wide receiver. And then you have Arian Smith, who you drafted, who we haven't seen a ton from yet, but now that's your wide receiver 5, and Isaiah Williams, your returners, your 6. So you really kind of just go into depth. Exactly.
I mean, and then people think, oh, those, but you have to understand, we need a WR2, but look, man, we don't have to worry about where are we going to get all the depth, where are we going to get the slot receiver, where are we going to get that 4 and 5. So if somebody gets hurt, no, we got the number 5 is perfect. It's Arian Smith. He's developing, he's creating space. We don't know what he could really be if he had a real offense, real quarterback this year, but he's developing. He's a good guy to have as your 5 developing because he's super fast. You could use him in certain situations to take the end out of the defense. You know what I mean? Like, because he has that speed, he causes some problems. And Mitchell, we don't know 100% he's not a WR2. He probably isn't. We have to function as if he's not. But was saying before, we have to see what this kid Mitchell can do when Garrett Wilson is in the game, as drawing the best coverage. And now, what does Mitchell look like as the WR2? Probably not the answer. Not relying on him to be the answer, but don't want to rule out that there is still an outside chance that Mitchell could be a respectable WR2. We don't know for a fact that he can't be.
Yeah, and I think that's what, tying this into the rest of the season conversation, you still have 6 games to play this year. And to me, we talked about it last week about the win versus loss and the tank versus not take, and does winning games matter and all that. I'm less concerned about are they winning or losing these games, and more worried about, like, what are these roster players showing us for where they're going to be next year? That to me is most important. And if it results in a loss, fine, so be it. I'll spin it as it's going to help the draft status coming up in April. And if that means they win games, I'm not going to be upset about it, because that means that some of these guys are showing that they could be pieces for you next year when it matters.
That's the only reason I want Garrett Wilson to suit up again this season if he's healthy. Like, because I said I was ready to sit him the rest of the year. I said, why risk it? But, just shelve him. But the only reason I would say is because, and the reason I care that Tyrod Taylor plays and not Justin Fields, is because I want to see this kid Mitchell. I want to know for sure. I think that we can't check off WR2. We have to still list that as a need for the moment. I'm starting to feel comfortable. I'd like more evidence on Mechie as being able to check off that we have our slot receiver. I'm not gonna complete that check yet. I got my ink and my pen pointed on the box, but it's going to be nice to have a bunch of games. That's what I'm looking for each week now. I want to know, is Mechie really the guy? Do we have our slot receivers? So that is something we could check off and not have to worry about.
Yeah, and that's important, right? That's a starter. It doesn't necessarily mean he has to be a star. It would be nice if he was, but is he a starter for you? And that's what you'll see. And it's kind of shocking how quickly that room in particular, while we're on the wide receiver topic, turned over in season, right? Like, you had Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, and Tyler Johnson, and Josh Reynolds as your top 4 guys. Now, Lazard has been healthy scratched most weeks. He was back this past week. But really, the focus is Mechie and Mitchell, and they just got here 2 weeks ago. It's not a focus on Tyler Johnson. It's not a focus on Alan Lazard and Josh Reynolds, as those guys, on 1-year deals or on the last year of their contract, probably not long-term pieces. So this is the right move, is to see what you have with these guys. And so far, I think the return has been good on both of them.
Absolutely. I mean, and then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm so happy that we're seeing more of Briggs on defensive tackle. Like the one thing about, no, never going to celebrate Quinnen Williams being traded. I loved him as a player, loved him as a person, loved having him in the organization. But now we get this, we get this extra second round pick this year. We get the first round pick. And now I turn my head and say, what do we have? I know I like Phillips. He's a proven commodity. And I've liked what we've seen from Briggs. So for me, it's like, okay, what does that tell me? That tells me going into the draft, we're not completely incompetent in the position where we have to use a first round pick. Maybe we want to use a second round pick, maybe just to have depth, and now bring in another good defensive tackle. Now you have a rotation of 3. But I want to continue to see that. I want to see that Briggs can do it all. Can he be an every down back? What do we have in this kid? And then slot cover, slot corner, nickel corner, Brownlee looking really good. So we, again, another box we could check off. These are things that as we rebuild, we don't have to waste resources on. We have it in-house already.
Yeah, you have it in-house. And I think leaving the wide receiver room, looking at 2026, I think we're both in agreement. It really just needs one more piece, and that piece is a wide receiver too.
WR2. And I don't know that you have to use one of the first round picks on it either. Like, you could definitely, Jacoby Lane is a guy I always like. Right now, he's projected as a second round receiver. There's a few out there. And, I would, of course, if there's a special opportunity, like with that second pick, if, Bell is on, there's guys that we all like. I like Bell, like there's certain wide receivers that best player available, we need a WR2. So if it's the 26th pick of the draft and that's our pick from the Colts, and we have that Colts pick, and there's a player you love, best player available wide receiver, definitely you can make that move. But it's also not like freaking a crime if we wait to the second round either. It just depends if the right guy is there. It's nice to already have little luxuries like that where we're not forced with a gun to our head to take a wide receiver in the first round.
No, absolutely. There's, and I know it's ironic because the Jets have tried it a bunch of times and it hasn't worked in the second round. But usually at the top of the second round, that's a really good spot to find wide receiver talent. And maybe, like one of your guys that you listed, Chris Bell, is there for you at the top of the second round, or Elijah Surratt, the wide receiver from Indiana. Who knows? Maybe they take Fernando Mendoza and they want to pair him up with the wide receiver that he played.
There's no question. If you take Mendoza, we really should be looking at Surratt, man. It's not bad to start your rookie quarterback off with having a wide receiver in the room that they're comfortable with right from the start.
Yeah, and they'll have those options. Or if they either don't pick in a spot that a quarterback's going to be available at and they don't want to move up, or they just decide this quarterback class isn't for us, there's guys at the top of the draft like Jordan Tyson or Carnell Tate that I'm sure it'll be easy to fall in love with.
Yeah. And everybody's got to remember, we have 3 first-round picks, obviously, in 2027. We don't know that we're going to solve everything the first offseason because we're probably not going to spend a lot in free agency. I think we're eating a lot of our dead cap in 2026, and it's not the right timing anyway to be big players in the free agency market. It really isn't. This is the time we're rebuilding. For this year in 26, what we want to do is we want to obviously get our quarterback, and then we want to make and pick the best, do with that. We have another first round pick, 2 second round picks. We want to make that count as much as possible. We're seeing what we have now. When you combine all those pieces, then we play it out, see how they play, see how they are on the field in 26, hope that we got it right on the quarterback, and figure out what are our needs, because we're going to be able to address those needs. That following season, we're going to have a ton of money, ton of cap space, and we're going to have a wealth of draft capital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see Cash's super chat in here. I want to get into that in a second, but just Jeremy said something that sparked a thought. And before I forget, I wanted to talk about it. You talked about not being huge spenders in free agency, and I mostly agree with that, right? Like, I don't think you have to go full Mike McCagnon. I think you pick and choose your spots on where you want to spend. But I will say, with the amount of day 3 picks, specifically in the 6th round that they have, I think the Jets should take the approach to what they had late in the offseason, before the season, and into the season, where they're flipping late round picks for already established NFL players.
Yeah, I like it. But I mean, but usually doing that, you're going to get more back of the end guy, right? You're not getting your stars. You're not,
Right.
but yeah, we can get more defensive, even more defensive tackle depth. They seem really good at, I mean, they hit twice on defensive tackle. So why not get a third that way if they can, right? Like they could definitely use some of those picks to do that because they seem really good at it. Almost like bringing Green Bean's thing to life. Just get me a fat guy. Like, and it seems like they've been good at doing that, so maybe we should keep up that trend. But yeah, I think there's certain spots you could fill up. You could bring another cornerback into the room. You could bring a safety easily. You package a few of those 6th-round picks, those back end picks, you might be able to get a decent, respectable safety in that room, maybe to be your safety 3. It backs up.
Sure.
Obviously we have to draft one. We have to get a real safety. Malachi Moore's improving and growing. We need to add another maybe to the mix.
I think so. I'm with you there. Let's get to Cash's question here. Cash Taylor says, should we sit our 2026 rookie quarterback? So, Jeremy, assuming they do draft a quarterback in this year's draft class, what is your plan for said quarterback?
I think first of all, I think training camp and camp, there's unpredictables, right? Like it's nice to have the luxury of not having to start them. Right? To bring him into you bring him into a situation. I don't want to bring him to a situation where Justin Fields is the other option because we know we don't want to see him. I think a lot of us want to see him just get cut or somehow be gone. Right? So there has to be some. I would prefer that we go out and get a veteran or get somebody that is good enough for us to say we can continue to evaluate as we pick, continue to function and grow and win games. So you have to get me something like I don't know, like Flacco, Dalton. Those are not popular names, but I'm just saying what Jameis Winston. I don't know, something functional though. Like it's like, and I know there are better options out there, but something functional. And then you have the luxury of not having to use your rookie unless they're ready. I mean, there is examples of quarterbacks that they come into camp and they're lights out. They're just ready. Right? Like Russell Wilson, the Seattle had just paid big money for a quarter, for the backup from Green Bay. They signed a giant contract, but Russell Wilson was just came in and beat him
beat him out.
Beat him out for the job. Right? So I think it's about not being forced to play your rookie. It would be a nice luxury to be able to determine if he's ready. And only play him if he gives you no choice.
Yeah, I think that's the right approach. I don't want to definitively say he absolutely has to play the first game of the year or they have to sit him for X amount of games. I think you kind of play it by ear once he's in here. Although I am in full agreement, I think they need another veteran on this roster that isn't Justin Fields. I just think we're headed towards a post June 1 cut with him. I think that's just, they did it with Rodgers. I think that's going to end up being the same thing that they decide to do with Justin Fields. And if that's the case, then you're signing all the guys you just rattled off there, maybe a Gardner Minshew, a Sam Howell, someone like that. And you're pairing them with this young quarterback. And, if he's in training camp and he looks okay, but you're seeing more out of the veteran, then all right, you start the vet for the first few weeks of the year, and then you eventually turn it over to the young quarterback. Or if he comes to camp and just looks like, wow, this guy's ready, he looks better than what we have, I don't think you have to hold him back just for the sake of holding him back.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't. I like the thought of sitting the quarterback for some amount of time and having that luxury to do it if they're not ready and you're not confident they're ready. Like, so I do agree with that philosophy that it could work out really well. But at the same time, I don't think there should be anything predetermined in stone. Let's just say that you got to be willing to be a little bit flexible. Remember when they tried not to start when we went to that Ravens game, the season opener. And they didn't start Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, stupid.
He was so stupid. He came in the second drive, and the first time he caught the ball, you were like, how stupid was that? Like, what was the point of not starting him? It's just so dumb just to not start him because he's a rookie. I mean, to me, it's like the number one thing that takes precedent is every single job is up for grabs in training camp. That's the way it should always be. That's how you keep your players playing hard and not taking anything for granted.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And, going back to our roster conversation, I think we spent a good amount of time on the wide receivers. So let's continue looking at the offense here. Offensive line is what I had next. Starters right now: Fashanu, Simpson, Myers, Joe Tippmann, and Armand Membu. We know Fashanu, Tippmann, and Membu are under contract. But what have you seen from this line, and what's your plan for the interior with guys like Myers, Simpson, and Elijah Vera Tucker as free agents?
I mean, Myers is the weak link, right? I don't want to see Tippmann go back to center, though. Be honest. To be honest, I learned. I don't want to steal, so I want to give credit to Dom C. Dom C. I'm a believer in what Dom C says, that that Joe Tippmann's size, his body type, we saw he had a little bit of trouble with snapping. It wasn't a big problem, like people exaggerated it, but there was a little bit of issue there. People will say, oh, because he played that's his natural position. I don't believe it's his natural position. I believe he's a natural guard. I think he's built to be a guard. He excels at guard. So to me, I think we need a better option. I don't mind keeping Myers around as a veteran backup. I think we need to step up our center. I think we need to extend Simpson. If we don't, and if Simpson goes away, obviously then we have to draft on day one or in the second round. We have to draft a guard. We have to address that. We can't especially if you're going to have a rookie quarterback, you got to have a good offensive line. I would prefer to take the known entity. Simpson to me is a priority. Get Simpson in there, keep Tippmann where he is, keep everyone where they are, have Myers just in case, a worst case scenario, we bring back the same line, and then get yourself a better center. Draft a center, whether it's free agency, see if you can upgrade that position. I wouldn't mind doing it through the draft because you can get that on day 3 even sometimes. And that's how I envision the offensive line. And then as far as AVT, let him test the market. If he's not getting a lot of money, if you can get him for $5 or $6 million and you give me AVT to give him a chance to win a job in camp, everybody gets a shot. Maybe he wins a job and forces Tippmann back to center, right? Or you have the perfect swing everything because AVT can play every position but center. So how awesome would it be, especially with our history and the injuries, to have a guy who, if any of our guys go down, aside from center, but you'll have Josh Myers anyway as backup, you have AVT to come in. How much of a luxury is that?
Yeah, it would be huge. I just don't know if he would sign without the guarantee of being a starter, and that kind of makes me believe he's likely to leave in free agency. And my stance on AVT, I really like the player a lot. I wanted the Jets to draft him that year. They did. That was arguably my favorite pick from that draft class because how much I liked him. Unfortunately, he's had 3 season-ending injuries now. So I don't think the Jets can put themselves in a spot where they are signing him to be a starter. I think someone in the NFL will. Someone will take that shot. I don't want it to be the Jets to take that shot.
I agree. We just cannot rely. We cannot put ourselves in a situation where we're relying on him. We just can't. At best, he could be a guy who could win the job, force the issue in camp. That's what I would tell him. I'd say you're not guaranteed to not have a starting job. You just have to win it. You have to be so good that if we draft a center or whatever, the combination of moving Tippmann back to center and you is better than using Myers or the other center and Tippmann at guard. Like you have to force the issue. You have to earn the spot. It's just that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to pull up this comment here from Jetsterbull. Says, give Linderbaum a front-loaded contract he can't refuse. Our new Mawai will have a ton of money in 2027. You mentioned Myers has a weak link playing center. Would you be interested in making a big swing in free agency at a guy like Tyler Linderbaum?
This is the one exception. As much as I'm saying we're not ready for free agency yet, because you're talking about drafting a quarterback and because we know how important it is to protect a quarterback, not just with pass protection, but with the better the running game, the more you're protecting your quarterback. A great running game is protecting your quarterback. So let's make that very clear. So this is an exception to if we pulled off some kind of deal that, obviously, like the contract, the bulk of it was pushed and spread out beyond 27 and beyond. This is a situation because of his age, because of it's his second contract. And because it's not the type of position where you get the guy and suddenly he's not getting sacks anymore, and suddenly he's not the same. Like, no, this guy we know is going to be a Pro Bowl level center for years to come. I am perfectly fine eating next year as we're not a contender, and 27 and beyond, as we really try to hope to compete, we have this guy. And even if we don't, and we're not a real playoff contender next year in 26, it's still, that's a position where it's anything on the offensive line is important, because you don't want your rookie quarterback to be in a bad situation, whether you're a competitor or not. So yes, I'm all for this. That's
right. This is a very fair exception to the free agency spending. He's 20. He will be 26 years old going into next year. This is his age 25 season. He hasn't missed games. He plays every week. He's an elite center. That is a no-brainer, right? It's not like you're signing him at 30 years old when he's been banged up and, already got paid or at once already. This would be getting him for his prime. That is totally different. And if you are going to spend, the exact kind of player I'd want to.
Right. That's the kind of gut play you spend on. A second contract, still young, solid type of player, like not situational. Like, this guy is just a great football player. And we know that's what we're going to be getting with him. Is very low risk. Very low risk. I want to say, I didn't say it before, AVT, by the way, if you brought him in for $5 to $6 million, could also replace Simpson, because if you got Lindenbaum, then all of a sudden, as much as I think Simpson is a fine player, on that line, he'd be the weak link. He'd be the one to say, he'd be the one to, you could also say to AVT, hey, you can also compete and maybe replace Simpson, because a healthy, AVT healthy is better than Simpson.
Easily. Yes.
Right? So if you had Simpson and AVT going into the season, you signed Simpson and then you got AVT, you had him and said to him, you could win the job, but now you have Simpson to back him up. Now we're not as reliant. If AVT goes down again, it's okay. We have Simpson. It's all about it's just not paying AVT too much money. He needs to have a prove-it-year deal, right? You can't overpay him, because you can't overpay him. You can't do a multi-year deal. You can't pay him so much, because if he gets hurt one more time, he's done. He may already be done. So you can't take the risk. But I would love to go in, like, you get Lindenbaum, keep Tippmann, keep Tippmann at right guard, and imagine you brought back both AVT and Simpson. What a great scenario for us.
That would be some offensive line and some depth there. Dana wants to know, did we trade for any rentals? If not, excellent. And it essentially follows it up with saying, think they were all multi-year. Mechie and I think it's Briggs would have to be tendered, but I believe they're restricted free agents. So
yeah, we have team control almost. That's what I love. With all these guys, there's team control for at least one more year. With Brownlee, with Briggs, with Phillips, with Mechie,
Mitchell,
all of them. I mean, we have at least one more year with all of them. I think we have a couple. Mitchell was only in the second year.
Right. So Mitchell has 2 more after this. Phillips is a veteran. He's going to be 30 next year, but he's under contract, which I've seen some people talk about, like, moving on from him and saving the cap space. And, like, for what? Like, why? They have so much cap room, and he is an extremely productive player for you.
We want to be competitive, right? Like, we don't want to, like, because it's interesting that we say those kind of things, and then when they come out and suck, we're going nuts on Sunday, cursing, same old Jets. I mean, you got to keep some guys. Yeah. Why would we let this guy go? He's great in the locker room. Great. If we end up drafting a defensive tackle, this guy Phillips, if you heard him talk, he's a leader.
Yeah,
he's a leader.
I think he could be a captain next year. Seriously.
Right. He's locker room gold. Why would you let him walk away? Like, you need this. The whole thing is one of the things that we needed to fix. This organization needs to have changed is the culture. So when you find a guy that's not only a good player, but he's really good in the locker room and can help, like, bring up the young players, Phillips is valuable to me. I'm not letting him go. That was a brilliant move getting him, and I would never want to see him walk out that door.
How about this from our friend Jake Asman? Says, a post O'Leary hobnobbing stream. Oh yeah. I need an update or some sort of vision on how the hobnobbing went. I was as much fun. I had an absolute blast at my own wedding, but this is how my brain works. I was a little jealous that I didn't spend a ton of time at my groomsmen and best friend table and your guys' table. So I need a little behind the scenes peek at that.
One of the first things I did when I saw Jake in the lobby before the ceremony was because when I envisioned the hobnobbing, when it was in my brain, there was a adjusting of, you know how we go over, we adjust each other's tie. So
Oh,
I
sure.
grabbed the knot of his tie and I started playing with it a little bit. I said, "We're hobnobbing," and so we definitely did that. We definitely I mean we took it to a next level. I mean I didn't know, like, I was, you know me with food. I was like, I ran away. I had no, I'm not being tied and handcuffed to everyone. I'm going to run around the stations, get food as soon as I can. But like Green Bean seeked us out. He found me and Ryan and he's like, "Come on, we got a table." And the hobnobbing was in full effect. I mean, we had a whole big table with chairs around it that we were hogging up. And, like, so yeah, we spent the whole hour just, hobnobbing away.
Oh, I love it. The absolute best. Thanks
I got
again.
made fun of for grabbing a lot of cheese and crackers.
Hey, I'm a charcuterie guy. I wouldn't have made fun of you. I like that.
There was a whole table that was being ignored because everybody's going for the hot food of just all these good cheeses and crackers and stuff. And I said, "Oh yeah, baby." And I just filled up a plate with crackers and cheese. And I think they made fun of me because it wasn't like I put it in the center of the table. I put it in front of me as two people.
Yeah, no, that was for you. That
was for me. I would have shared if they asked.
Oh, goodness. So offensive line, I think we kind of have our plan, right? Like if you're going to spend the big bucks, it's for a guy like Linderbaum. If not, it's probably some combination of retain most of the guys you have and then maybe add someone on day 2. That would be my approach.
I mean, I don't know if they agree with me. I would draft the center.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think a guard, like capital wise, centers are cheaper than guards. You have a good guard in Tippmann. Why not make the need, the cheaper position?
True.
Right? Because, very rarely do you have to use a day 1 pick on a center. You use a day 2 pick on a center, you're probably getting someone very special. Tippmann was a day 2 pick, right? So, and I'm not saying I would absolutely hate it if there's some great center that they take at the end of the first round. I'm not going to like scream and tear the roof down. I just don't think you have to do it. I don't think it's necessary that every offensive lineman needs to be a first round pick.
No.
But Lindenbaum is like, that's a different thing because you're getting a proven entity with no, like you already know what he is. So there's a lot of value in that. So yeah, I mean, I think we have it figured out. I mean, I think that we're in great shape. Either the team is, if they don't agree with me and they want to move Tippmann back to center, then there's a lot of really good guards at the end of the first round and early in the second round. It's a sweet spot of this draft, in my opinion. There's a couple of really good guards that, unless they move up, unless they crawl up higher in the first round, there's going to be some good talent there.
How about at running back? Obviously, you have Isaiah Davis under contract next year. You have Braylon Allen, who'll be coming back from injury. What are you doing with Breece Hall? Are you letting him walk and trying to replace him? Are you franchised or tagging him or transition tagging him? Long-term deal? What are we thinking at the running back position?
There's absolutely no way I'm letting Hall walk out that door if I draft a quarterback. You got to protect the quarterback, right? I am not leaving it up to Isaiah Davis or Allen. I like both those kids. I think they're good role players. I think they're good to be part of the room. But I am not letting Breece Hall walk out that door if I draft Mendoza. No way. I want a proven veteran running back in there. Gets 1,000 yards from scrimmage every year, no matter what's going on with our offense. He's always manages to pull it off and find a way. He's a home run hitter. Makes big plays. There's just absolutely no way I let Hall walk out if we draft a quarterback. It changes everything in my mind. I absolutely need him to be there. He gives the quarterback an extra receiving weapon. You can always just flip these little flat passes to him, and he's always very dangerous. He gives the defense something to worry about, because one thing we could say about Breece Hall, some people don't like him as much. Some people do like him. What cannot be argued is he is proven to be incredibly dangerous in space, which causes the defense to pay attention to him. And anytime you draft a rookie quarterback, you want other offensive players that the defense is paying attention to.
I like that answer a lot. I think I would give him the Kyron Williams contract. which was 3 for 33. So AAV $11 million, but front load it for the first 2 years, right? When you have that young quarterback on that really cheap deal, that's, I think, the time where it's okay for you to sign a running back. And I just don't know. You could throw money at someone else, but he's going to be 25. You sign him for his age 25, 6, maybe 7 season. And then beyond that, you're probably done with him. And, hopefully one of Allen or Isaiah Davis emerges, or you could draft someone a couple years from now. But to me, I like the value that he gives you as a pass catcher. And he's not a perfect player, right? There's still some that is some room for desire with Breece Hall's game, but he's a good player. And the Jets don't have a ton of good offensive players. And I just don't want to create another hole for myself when I could just go, you know what? I'll pay the guy that we have who is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I'm just reading the chat because they're still going off on Lindenbaum. And I think for the most part, the consensus is that we all agree. Like, I don't think it's so funny because I was saying I don't want free agents in 2026, but that is definitely the exception. Like, definitely the exception. There's no question about it. Like, I love the idea. I think he should be the priority free agent for us.
Yeah, the number one target. I could definitely see that.
I think to me, he's mine. He's my number one. If you ask me what's one move you'd love to see the Jets make in free agency, it's signing him.
Yeah, I really have to go through and take a look at some of these other free agents. I feel like I've spent more time on draft prep right now, and to be fair, I need to do more on free agency, but I think center makes a lot of sense. I think linebacker could also make a ton of sense. I know we haven't gotten to the defense yet in talking about that, but that might be an area in which they spend or try to reshape it a little bit. But I mean, Linderbaum with his age, that's a no-brainer for me.
I mean, it's because it's not just, we're taking a shot at a good center. That's like we're bringing in like we automatically with Membu and Olu and Tipman. Oh my God. Like, it's ridiculous at that point. When people are saying, "Oh, now you have to get rid of Simpson, he's the weak link." Like, yeah, please give me an offensive line where Simpson's the weak link. The guy was our 4th best offensive player last game against the Ravens, by the way.
Yeah, no, you could do a hell of a lot worse if John Simpson's your worst offensive lineman.
Right. There's most weeks on PFF he's average or above average, and that's just your role guy. Right? That's not your star guard. That's just your role player that you have to have on every team. Like, in your starters, you have guys that aren't stars. They're just solid players.
Well, yeah, in that case, you'd have 2 tackles you feel great about, an elite center. Tipman's good. So, yeah, I mean,
it's also, and this is proven. I have a friend who's in the chat right now that swears by this. It also is continuity in the offensive line. If you just upgrade Myers to Lindenbaum, but keep the rest of the offensive line the same, continuity. I mean, that is so important. Like, we have proof of that. There's evidence of that. When you look at historically great teams, look at their offensive line from year to year. It matters. Continuity in your offensive line is important. I don't think Lindenbaum over Myers would break that continuity in any way. You're just putting in arguably the best center in the NFL.
Yeah.
To go along with 2 young stud tackles. And, it's just sounds beautiful to me.
It does. Quarterback, we know, has to be completely reworked, right? Like, they don't have anything that, like, Justin Fields is not coming back. Tyrod Taylor's on an expiring deal. Do you want to bring Tyrod back? Where are you there?
We'll see how he plays. If he like right now, no. But if maybe getting started, maybe if he gets some games in, maybe it comes. Maybe it's about because he hasn't gotten to play at all. But he can't trust him. He gets hurt too much. He's too injury prone. He's a good QB3. He's a QB2, but yet he's the kind of QB2 where you still have to have a good QB3. That's the problem he presents. So if you're a team that happens to have we have 2 young quarterbacks that we're developing, maybe he's a good guy to have. It's just all situational. We need to start scratch in that room. Let's just be honest. We need to start scratch. Maybe Brady Cook is something, because I think there's some good things about Brady Cook, and we would just have to see. I'm not anointing him, but he might be a guy that we have starting the season as a QB3. Get me a veteran quarterback, get me the rookie, whoever you draft, and there you go.
I'm in full agreement. I think that's the most likely scenario for that room. Defensive line, guys who I think are going to be here next year: McDonald, Phillips, Briggs, Johnson. Beyond that, though, Michael Clemens, I don't think is going to be back. McGregor, Tufele, Kalen Saunders, Mozzie Smith, Tyler Barron has been a healthy scratch. I don't know how much you could really rely on him.
We need to use a pretty high draft pick on edge. We need another edge.
Yep.
Look, I would love for it to be a superstar. It doesn't have to be. It could be a JFM like, JJ like, just a solid guy who does his job. Like, if he gets sacks, that's a great thing. Of course, we want sacks. People make the mistake of thinking edges just you equate to sacks, and that's not true. It's about the run game. It's about containing the quarterback. It's about stealing the edge. If we have a JFM type of guy, if we could hit like day 2, day 1 pick, late first round, early second round, get me a really good edge. It's really solid, explosive, can get some sacks, can get some pressure, but more importantly, seal that edge. This is a 2-prong approach for me. It's 2 pieces. We're not done yet. You got JJ, you get that young edge. You got McDonald as a pass rush specialist. We're not done. 27, you got to go edge again with one of your picks. You got to get another one, because you got to have depth, because these guys get hurt. And it's just too important, right? You got to get pressure. You got to so to me, we need 2 edges, but I'm not saying we have to get them all in 1 year. We could go 1 and 1.
I'm with you. I think they also need another interior guy. That could also be
same thing, same reason.
Yeah, borderline starter rotation. Because I think I like both Briggs and Phillips, but they're like borderline rotation or borderline starters, right? Like, I feel like they need one more guy, like either bumping one of those 2 down to the third guy, or the rookie or whatever free agent addition is the third guy. But they need, in my opinion, for next year, and then, like you said, you continue to add and build it out. But I think you're looking at least 1 interior guy and 1 edge.
Yeah. I think for this offseason, we need 2 defensive linemen, 1 for the inside. 100% agreed. You can't just have 2. You have to have a third. You have to have an extra for everything. Injuries are just part of football, right? And if you want to be competitive, we may as well get that. Defensive tackle is an easy position to get somebody respectable, at least, right? Like Green Bean says, get that fat guy. You don't have to use a first-round pick on it all the time. That's only if you want a star. Sometimes you get a guy in the 2nd, 3rd round, and they end up being a star. Like, you get lucky, but we definitely need those 2 positions. And like I said, the next year you need another edge, because we're very thin. Even if we draft a good edge that's solid to play opposite of JJ, and with McDonald, we're still thin, because if one of the 2 get hurt, what do we do? McGregor?
Yeah. No, I don't feel great about McGregor. I don't feel great about Tyler Barron either. I know he's a rookie and he's still young, but I mean, I don't think it's a great sign that he's being, healthy scratched in favor of a player like Braden McGregor right now. So I think edge is a position you need at least 3. Good teams have 4 good edges. Like when the Jets had their elite defense, they had 4 guys that they felt comfortable rotating through.
Right. So if we draft a young stud, we will now have 3. And we're still going to need a 4th, but it's okay for that to take to 27, because we're not going to do everything in one offseason.
100%. The position that is sneaky, one of the ones that scares me the most going into next year, is linebacker, Jeremy, because Quincy Williams is a free agent. Jamian Sherwood is signed and under contract, but he has been really bad for a good chunk of this year. He's been playing a little bit better over the last few, but not up to the standard of which he is getting paid. He's getting paid as a very good linebacker. He is not playing like a very good linebacker. Beyond that, you have Kiko Mawingoa and not a whole lot else.
Well, and McCreary is coming back, but it's not only the Williams that scares me. It's also and that inconsistency. But when we play base and need a 3rd linebacker, we're not getting great play. Right. So I agree. I think that I definitely, in my mock drafts, I've done it. Like in these mock drafts, I'm already looking sometimes one of those top 4 picks when the right guy is there. There are some linebackers I like, and I think it would be perfect. I would not be shocked at all if day 2, second round, you see the Jets come up to that podium with one of those 2 picks, and take a linebacker. I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's definitely a position to address. It's not gun to our head for next year. It would be nice if we have the opportunity to get someone good, but it's definitely absolutely mandatory over the next 2 years, because I'm really looking at this as a 2-year project. I want to compete next year. I want to be better than next year, but realistically, this is a build, and to get to the level we want to get to, this is, it's a 2-year project to get to that point where now we're like 27. We go in there with some expectations, like to compete for the playoffs, and then 28 and above. That's where we're making, we're hoping for, the dream, like to be one of those teams, a great team.
The guy that stands out to me, and I know we were saying that I don't want to spend a ton on free agency. This player's a little bit older, but I could see the Jets being very interested in a player like Alex Anzalone in free agency, the linebacker from the Lions, and just trying to bring in more of his guys and people who have played and succeeded in his system, kind of similar to like what Rex did with Bart Scott, older at the back end of his career, right? But like, you need more players like that. And I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me if they wanted to and spent a little bit on him, not quite to the level of what Jamie and Sherwood just got paid, but relatively decent money for a player like that.
Yeah, no, I could tell. Look, some of it is going to come other ways. I mean, we filled the interior of the defensive line. Like especially when we traded Q, like before this season, it was just Q. If you told me we traded them, I'd say, okay, then we have to start all over at the position. We don't. We just need another good guy to add to a rotation we already have 2 guys now. Like, so we filled nickel, right? Slot corner. Like, we filled that for nothing. Brownlee, we got that filled. So it's getting safe to assume that we're going to be able to, over the next 2 years, fill some spots without high investment, without using like really high capital, because we seem to be doing it. We just filled our wide receiver room. It might not fill the WR2, but we certainly look like we filled the room for for slot and 4 and 5. So there's that to consider too, that like some of these spots are going to be filled, and we just have to see. Like, that's why it's so hard to predict what 27 draft is going to look like, because we don't know. And also we don't know that everything we do in 26 is going to be about the draft. Proof and point, Lindenbaum, right? If we get him, that takes away from what you have to think about in the draft.
It does. And then it changes exactly that. It changes your approach when it comes to the NFL draft. But linebacker's a spot, I'm assuming Quincy's going to leave in free agency. And I just think it needs to be overworked and just change it over a little bit. I think they need to get bigger at that position. I think Sherwood and Williams are both smaller linebackers.
I'm on that page too, man. I want the big dominating guy. I want the big pop guy, force some fumbles. Why don't we force fumbles? Because we got tiny little guys hitting them. I want that big guy that's going to truck people and knock that ball silly, right? And like force some turnovers. What's nice is, again, I'm not disrespecting any position. Like, if it was easy to find good players at every position, everybody would always have good players. But there is difficulty level that we all recognize, right? It's harder to find an edge one, CB one, WR one than it is some other positions. Linebacker is the kind of position where I'm not talking about the edge linebacker that's used to get 15, 20 sacks a year, but just a solid full cover run stopping stud linebacker. You don't have to go round 1 for that. No. There's lots of guys in the 2nd and 3rd rounds every year in the draft, names that we all like, right? That we like from college, that Rusty Spooner will go crazy about. Those kind of guys are available in the 2nd and 3rd round. It's not the kind of position like quarterback where you have to like say, oh my God, we have to freaking tank, because the only way to get a guy in that position that is going to be good is if it's a top 5 pick. That's not the situation with linebackers. So if you're going to have a need at least it's nice when the need is in a position like that, because it's not so impossible. You don't have to invest so much to get that big linebacker.
Right. Like Green Bean spent most of last offseason talking about Carson Schlesinger. He ends up being a day 2 guy, goes to the Browns, and he's starting for them and playing, pretty well for Cleveland.
Yeah, he's excellent. And so I see somebody in the chat already has it. Anthony Hill Jr. is a guy I love. Right. And that's right now. It could change, but for right now, he's a second round guy. I think he's more likely to go drop further than move up, because the kind of linebacker he is not the kind of player lately in the new trend of the NFL that's been going high in the draft.
That's true.
Right? They're looking for edge rushers or linebackers that, that 3-4 linebackers that become edge, like Micah Parsons. They're looking for that kind of linebacker. Those are the guys that go early. But the kind of guy that an Anthony Hill would be, the kind of linebacker that we're talking about, not necessarily just blitzing every play and trying to get the quarterback, is a guy you can easily get in the second round.
Let's close with the secondary, right? So the corners right now, AZ Thomas, Brandon Stevens, and Jarvis Brownlee in the slot as your starters. Malachi Moore and Tony Adams as starters at safety. What are you feeling for the defensive back room? How do they have to adjust it going into 2026?
Safety is a priority. We might sign someone else, but like I could see us drafting 2, like one really high, day 2 safety. I could see that happening. Wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if day 2 is linebacker and safety. I really wouldn't, depending on what we do day 1. And then I could see us double, because we have these other picks, I could see us going safety again to put some competition in the room for depth, because Malachi Moore, he might continue to develop and actually be a starting safety that's good, or he might be, because he's had some terrible games, but he's also had some good games and he's developing. So I think it's safe to put him as a safety 3.
I was going to say, I don't know yet if Malachi Moore is a starter or safety 3.
Right.
Like some weeks it looks like he could be a starter. Other weeks you're going, they might need 2 safeties and he could be the 3rd guy.
Right. And we don't necessarily have to fill the safety room in just 26. We absolutely have to get a good safety in 26. Because again, if the plan is, even though it's 2-year plan, it doesn't mean I'm saying we're not trying to win games in 26. We cannot have another season like this. The locker room, we need to have winning. We need to see growth. We need to see things. So we might not be a championship contending team. A championship contending team is we need 2 safeties, no question. But to take a step forward and go in the right direction, we need at least 1, right? By next year, we'll know if Malachi Moore is going to be a starting safety or a safety 3. There's no question in my mind. We have to go for it. We have to try to find a really good safety.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. And safety, I think you absolutely at minimum need 1 starter. Tony Adams, I would not bring back, nor do I think he is a starting caliber safety. Malachi Moore could either be a number 2 or 3 safety. So 1 or 2 there. At corner, am I crazy for thinking you could be okay going into the season with Thomas, Stevens, and Brownlee as your 3 starters?
No,
comfortable with that?
No, I like our starters. Okay. We need some depth.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even hate Stiggers. I think he did okay. Like, I think he, as a backup who had to come in, I don't think he was terrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so I don't even think that, I don't think it's gun to your head for cornerback. Again, I wouldn't complain if they do it, because it is an eventual thing. For 2027, 28, like moving forward in the future, it is an important position. I don't know if that's a gun to your head position. I think we can go into next year and be a competitive team with Stevens and AZ Thomas, right? And so I don't think, and Brownlee, but I think moving forward, being realistic with injuries and things that happen, depth, we feel more comfortable if we had another very competent, cornerback, and a cornerback maybe that even will eventually be the cornerback of the future after Stevens, for example. So, but again, it's not gun to your head for this coming draft. To me, this coming draft is the safety is gun to your head. Otherwise, you're not serious. You're not going to compete if you can, because Tony Adams is. I mean, he had a better game last week, but I don't care. Week to week, he's not the answer.
No, he's really not. But if they add, even if it's just add one more safety, relatively high, either relatively high in the draft or sign a veteran, I'm okay with using 2026 to see for sure if AZ Thomas, Malachi Moore, Brandon Stevens, Jarvis Brownlee, like if you're good there or not. And if you realize, hey, we need another corner or we need another safety, Moore's really, kind of a third rotational player, then so be it. And you make that change the following year in 2027. That's where I'm at.
Right. And messages to Spooner, to Rusty. I love Dylan Thinneman, the kid from Oregon. Remember, I'm on the West Coast. I'm out here. I watch them every week. I love Dylan. Like I've mocked Dylan multiple times so far in mock drafts. I'm not doing public mock drafts because I know no one's ready for that. But as a draft guy, I do it all year round. I'm always looking at the combinations and where people are ranked. So
I love it. So today was fun, Jeremy. I like kind of going through and kind of just taking an overall pulse on the state of the roster. I think there's a decent amount here, but clearly some spots where you either need to add a couple starters or even just some depth, like we talked about at wide receiver and safety.
yeah, my final thing is when you look at how much draft capital we have and how much cap we have, cap space and draft capital, and you look at what we have, our situation is not nearly as bad as people think. I think people are mad because we're not winning now, and we were supposed to win last year, and people are still sore about that. But as a team that's in a rebuild, I do not think we're in a very bad situation. I actually am getting excited, but I will say one thing. Everything we said, all of it goes to waste and is nothing if we don't get the quarterback. Like all of this is assuming that we're going to be able to get a quarterback, and that's everything. If we get the right quarterback, if we draft a quarterback that's an average or better or great NFL quarterback, we're going to be a playoff team because we have enough in-house, we have enough draft capital and enough money that I feel really confident that if we get the right quarterback, we are going to be a playoff team by 27 or 28, and then we're going to have a run as a really good football team. It's just a matter of if we don't get the quarterback, it just blows it up.
None of this matters. That's why we didn't spend as much time on quarterback today. We've spent a lot of time in general talking quarterback, but just know none of this matters unless they figure out the quarterback.
Right. It's all quarterback.
So that's a good place to leave it for this week. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday. I'm Matt. He's Jeremy. We will catch you next time.